Drew here, and in Enter Number 2, the third episode of Mare of Easttown, people acted suspicious, suspects were eliminated, and Mare got taken off the case. But not to worry, because Dirty Harry and pretty much every cop in the business does their best detective work after they've been taken off the case. So it was really only a matter of time before this happened. But the reason for it, that Mare planted drugs on her former daughter-in-law in her car so that she wouldn't get custody of her grandchild. Well, this is a little bit of a touchy topic because, we're definitely having a discussion of accountability for the police right now, and Mare definitely crossed the line, and just because she's a protagonist doesn't excuse this at all. But not to worry, she's definitely going to get brought back on the case because we've definitely got an in for her in that we've got Zobel, who, nice guy. I really like this character, really appreciate the way that Evan Peters is playing him. But he seems, even though he was the outside expert brought in, that he's the one who's a little bit out of his element. And in a good-natured way, he actually seems to know it, and he seems actually somewhat in awe of Mare, which I think makes the dynamic more interesting because I initially thought that he was going to be like the David Tennant character in Broadchurch, brought in to help poor little Olivia Colman solve this crime that is just out of her league. But it's actually seemingly the opposite situation based on the scene where Mare was much more adept at finding the bullets that had been fired at Aaron, noticing where the ricochet had sent one into a tree. So I really enjoyed, in particular, the scene between them at the bar where he clearly kind of revealed that he has feelings for her, or at least is attracted to her / has a crush on her, which, it could have come off as creepy if they had played it differently, but instead it just made it somewhat more endearing that he has this crush on her, I feel, and her bemused reaction to it I thought was rather funny. I did find there was this emotional anchor in the scene when we find out that his fiancée left him very, very shortly before they were going to get married, and he just doesn't feel that his life is turning out the way it was supposed to, which is something I feel like a lot of people, whether young or old, feel. We oftentimes feel that life hasn't turned out as we had planned, and I think that's been a recurrent theme in this show with various different characters. I think that you see it in Mare's own life with her own mother and with, this life that she's living where she's constantly busy and being pulled upon from so many different directions. So I felt like that was a compelling character moment for Zobel. And as I said, I feel like this is laying the groundwork for him to bring Mare in, even though she's been put on leave for her actions. I think that he's going to need her. So I'm suspecting that he's not actually going to get brutally killed at any point in this series. I suspect they brought him in so that they could have Mare continue to have a role in the investigation, even after she's technically been taken off the case. Otherwise, this episode, as I said, suspects were eliminated. It seems that, as I think most people could have guessed this early in the series, Frank Sheehan was a red herring. That it seems that he was simply being a good Samaritan as far as Aaron went, and that he had been helping her. And it seems kind of unlikely, if you think about it honestly, that he would have been the father of the child given the circumstances in his life. But they've basically set up the timeline seemingly for when Aaron died at this point, and it has eliminated apparently a few suspects, although you can never be too sure in these types of mystery thrillers. But Richard, played by Pearce, kind of seems like he can't be the actual suspect because, based on that timeline, he would have been with Mare when the murder was taking place. I definitely think there's more to him than meets the eye, and I'm interested to see what it is. But this episode, they did a lot to humanize his character in his scene with Mare, where he described, his past and how he had this child whose life he wasn't allowed to be in due to these circumstances in the past, and he claims he has a good relationship with his child now. And it'll be interesting to see if this character is someone who shows up in the show. I don't think it can be Aaron's child that he's referring to, because he said it was 1996, which was way too far back. I don't think this is a period drama, so that would mean that his child has to be grown up by now. So I don't think that can be what's going on. But it is interesting to wonder what he's doing in town. Perhaps he's here helping someone who did something wrong. We'll have to wait and see. We also saw the deacon acting suspicious. He says all the right things, but there does seem to be something off about him. And I feel that Mare's cousin seems to suspect that something is off as well. And now we know that he was apparently transferred under mysterious circumstances. So it's going to be interesting to see what's unveiled there. But given that this is the third episode and this character just already looks suspicious, he was already looking suspicious last episode, I tend to suspect that this is following the Broadchurch formula, where anybody who looks suspicious at the beginning is probably just a red herring and will soon be eliminated. He may have a secret. He clearly does, seeing as he was tossing Aaron's bike into the river from a bridge, but I feel like this is going to turn out to be like the Frank Sheehan reveal last episode, where it's fairly quickly made clear that this is probably a red herring. Otherwise, I have a feeling that whatever the final outcome of this story is, it's going to play into that old couple where Mare keeps going back because of the vandalism and the peeping Tom and the camera that doesn't work, but then she deletes the footage this episode. I think that something is going to play into the final resolution of this story because they keep going back there, and it was the first scene, and I feel like things oftentimes start on something that you won't realize the significance of until the very end. So I'm suspicious that that older couple and the camera is more important than it initially appears. I'm also suspicious of Mare's daughter. I feel that they're giving her a lot of screen time, and it's a relatively recognizable actress from the Spider-Man Homecoming and Spider-Man Far From Home films. So to me, I suspect that there's probably more to this character too than meets the eye. And even though she's been given kind of frivolous plot lines so far, I'm suspicious of her because we know she was there, seemingly coming to the rescue of Aaron, but it seemed pretty clear to me that she lied to Mare when she said that Aaron didn't say anything to her and she didn't say anything to Aaron before Aaron stumbled off into the woods. I don't think that's true. I think there's more to that than Mare's daughter has said so far. So I enjoyed this episode. It was definitely a fairly well-paced and engaging episode, but I feel a little bit of frustration because at the beginning of this series, I felt like it was a cut above Undoing and other procedural fare. I felt like it was more sophisticated in its approach, but I feel that as it's gone on, it's kind of become clear to me that it's basically the same as Undoing, where it's just a very, very polished entry in the genre, but it doesn't have anything, particularly groundbreaking or exciting about it in comparison to other members of the genre, other entries in the genre. As it falls into familiar rhythms, I find it engaging enough, but not as exciting as I initially did. I thought that this was going to have more to say about small town life and about people in this town than it has had. So I'm still going to finish this, obviously. I mean, it's easily my favorite show airing weekly at the moment, but I still just feel a little bit of wistfulness for the show that could have been. But those are just my thoughts for what they are worth. If you're interested in seeing my upcoming reviews of other shows, please consider subscribing. And as always, thanks for watching.